Hey, it's the Rican, and today is Friday News Dump. What do they do on Fridays? Fridays is the day, um, usually, let's say the White House, the media, they'll dump stories that they really don't want you to know about. Like, especially when it comes to White House, they'll drop a scandal on Friday evening so like that nobody hears about it because that's basically what goes on. It's Friday evening, Saturday, Sunday will pass, and nobody will be talking about it because you're normally not at work. So that's just so you could see here. That's the um uh this is, well, what's that? It's the political dictionary. That says Friday news dump: releasing bad news or documents on a Friday afternoon in an attempt to avoid media scrutiny is often called a Friday news dump by members of the media. Often the White House sets the release of bad news, unflattering documents, to late Friday afternoon. The Pentagon and other agencies also use the practice, a legacy of earlier administrations. So keep this in mind. So it's not just it's just the government that will do this. So with that being said, look what got released today at 5 o'clock. Oh, look at this. FBI finds scant evidence. Oh, really? Come on. FBI finds scant evidence U.S. Capitol attack was coordinated. Sources. So let's get this straight. If it wasn't coordinated, then how was it an insurrection? It was just a riot. It was just a peaceful protest, you know, and you had a bunch of idiots who weren't peacefully protesting and went too far. That's not an insurrection. We're wasting millions of dollars on an investigation in the House for nothing because they don't give a shit. It's not their money. It's our money, and they're wasting it to do, what the FBI just came up with. The FBI has found scant evidence that the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol was the result of an organized plot to overturn the presidential election results, according to four current former law enforcement. So there you have it. Okay, what us on the right have known all along, but people, this whole thing about the January 6th stuff, I knew it. We knew it all along. What is it? It was meant to. It's a distraction. You had people involved. Let's say, for example, you had that one proven for sure Antifa guy that dressed as a Trump supporter. All you need is that one person to start the domino in order for it to keep going. So, let's say one of these protesters saw this guy jump in and go in, and everybody followed. I mean, that's why you saw these old people walking in there, people not knowing and they call this an insurrection. But here, I want to see this stuff. I want to read, keep going here. 90 to 95% of these are one-off cases, said a former. Then you have 5% maybe of these militia groups that were more closely organized, but there was no grand scheme with Roger Stone and Alex Jones on all of these people to storm the Capitol and take hostages. I'm gonna, hopefully I could play this video. Where was it that I saw here? I just want to play this real quick because for all the people who talk about insurrection and they wanted violence and all this stuff, check this out. Come on. Now you're not gonna play. Here we go. Let's see. So you see, he's talking about he doesn't want to be the story. He doesn't want the violence to be part of the story. So there you go. He was trying to get, because remember, Trump spoke that day, and that's the area where Trump was speaking. They were trying to get the people away from, because the while Trump was speaking was when the stuff was already going on at the Capitol building. That's the stuff that the mainstream media doesn't report. And there you go, is they're trying to demonize Alex Trump, you mean Alex Jones, Donald Trump, and here Roger Stone. Um, but there you go. They were trying to get away from that. They didn't want that to be the story. That's why that day I was livid with what happened, because the fact that I knew that's what was going to become this, that was going to be the story. And here we are, Friday, 5 o'clock is when they released the story. And I'm glad. Normally, sometimes I try to get my videos out early on Fridays, but I didn't, and I'm glad I didn't, because this story needs to be. We need to spread this story out. This story needs to go out there. This is the one I grabbed from the Reuters, but also Post Millennial put here, which is less. Post Millennial is more a right leaning source, but I wanted to use the left leaning source. Um, but here, you could go through the story and you see the Reuters where they talk about far right groups. But it's funny when they talk about Antifa, they never call them far left Antifa. It's always far right oath keepers and far right Proud Boys, but they don't go far left Antifa. Just want to point that out because I find that interesting, because that was right here in the beginning, far right groups, and they have a hyperlink to it. But when do you see far left Antifa? You know, and continue with my media bias. So here we are. It's Friday, and this is the story that they dump on us on a Friday, because they know that most people are going to ignore the story, or they're just going to just casually glance at it and not give it a second thought, because the people who are already, especially the people who are already sold on that it was an insurrection after, look, listen, the irony behind the people who call this an insurrection, these are the same people who will defend the riots that happened in the summer of 2020. These are the same people who go, oh, well, it was mainly peaceful protests. You had those crazies that, lit fires and, burned these buildings down and, killed people. You had those crazies, but it was mainly a peaceful protest. But meanwhile, you have what happened on January 6th was thousands of people that were there that were doing nothing. You had a couple of hundred people who were stupid and went into the Capitol building. Some people who were violent with the cops, but the majority of the people were peaceful also. But why is it, but that's the whole thing with the media, where I'll keep going with what I talked about this week, is that's their agenda. The agenda is they're for Black Lives Matter. So was so was the CDC and all this stuff. That's why they said you could go out and protest and it's not a super spreader, but you go to a Trump rally, it's a super spreader. They should both be super spreaders. It's either all or nothing with both of these things. Either a protest and a rally is the same difference. So, but like I said, so if a Trump rally is a super spreader, but the Black Lives Matter protest is not, same thing when it goes, if January 6th was an insurrection, then the Black Lives Matter riots of the summer, especially when you have in Portland and DC, you had, they had to send Trump into a bunker because they were worried about what was going on. But they didn't call that an insurrection because the media supported it. So when it's what they support, then they'll put the name blame. They'll put the name that they want. So that's what they're doing with January 6th. You could call January 6th a riot, and I'll be like, okay, I accept that. I'll, you know, people got out of hand. People did stupid things that they shouldn't have done. And like I said, I was pissed that day. I was super pissed. But here we are on a Friday, them dumping the story of there's basically nothing here. You know, trying to blame it on Trump, trying to blame it on Alex Jones, Roger Stone, whoever, trying to blame it on the right wing militias. You could call them right wing, but most of them is just the fact that they're against government overreach. So if that's far right, then there's a lot of people you mislabeling with that, because there's a lot of people that don't trust the government, even on the left. There's people that don't trust the government. But that's your Friday news dump, and we need to get this news out there. We need to talk about it. You need to tell your friends. You need to share the story, share my video, because this is what they do on a Friday, just so like that, nobody pays attention. Come Monday, they want people to forget about it. But this is stuff that all weekend we should be talking about this with people we know. Oh, did you hear about the FBI said that there was no grand conspiracy? So if there's no grand conspiracy, there is no insurrection. Plain and simple. Being said, I'm the Right Rican. Follow me on YouTube, Rumble, and you can interact with me on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Gab, Telegram. That being said, have a good weekend, everyone.